So you want to know what it takes to sell a house in Los Angeles, you did a Google search, and it turns out you just can't put it on Facebook Marketplace and have the buyer Venmo you the money. There's a bunch of paperwork stuff, there's different ways of selling a house, there's costs. And speaking of costs, can you guess how much the most expensive house in Los Angeles County sold for on the open market? Was it A, $200 million, B, $90 million, or C, $150 million? The answer right after this intro, but yes, today we're going to talk about the home selling process, talk about options like should you sell it yourself, hire an agent, sell it to Zillow, call it a day. We'll cover timeframes and of course, the funnest part of all, the costs associated with selling. All of this and much more coming up. And drum roll please, the most expensive house sold in Los Angeles County on the open market is letter C, $150 million. But anyway, first let's talk about the different ways to sell a house. And yes, I'm a real estate agent and I'm telling you that hiring a real estate agent is not the only way to sell a house. And while the list to follow is objective, my analysis is definitely very biased. Option number one, sell it yourself. Yes. Technically, it is possible, it's not illegal to sell the house yourself. You don't need a real estate agent in the same way that technically, with enough time and energy, you can build a house, represent yourself in court, and even give yourself a massage. Now the question is it worth your time and energy, and do you really want to do it? Number two, sell it to an iBuyer or instant buyer, which are essentially investors. Now, in this category, I'm including small flip investors and big corporations like Zillow, Opendoor, and a bunch more, because the concept is kind of pretty much the same. They buy your house at a discount and sell it at a profit. This is like the equivalent of trading in your car at the dealership. They're going to give you pretty much nothing, but they are going to make the process a lot easier. So if time is more important than money, yeah, this could be an option. Number three, discount brokers. A recent example of this has been Redfin, but the idea of discount brokers has existed since, well, like forever. There has always been someone willing to do things for less money, sometimes at the cost of more service. For example, in my experience, one way Redfin is able to offer discounts is because they delegate a lot of the work. For example, the listing agent typically never shows the property, doesn't attend inspections, nor meets the appraiser. But every discount broker has a different model, and it's not to say that discount brokers are bad and other agents are good. It really just depends on the agent. And finally, number four, a regular full-service real estate agent like myself. From this type of agent, you can typically expect a more tailored and personalized service. It's kind of like the difference between getting a tailored suit and one at H&M, except here, depending on how well the suit fits you, it can determine how much money you get. But again, it depends on the agent. You can have two agents working for the same company and get totally different experiences. So if you're hiring an agent, in my opinion, the agent matters more than the company. And now for some more trivia. On the $150 million house, what option did the seller pursue? A, for sale by owner, B, iBuyer, C, Redfin, or D, traditional real estate agent? If you guessed B, iBuyer, you, my friend, are 100% wrong. The house sold through a traditional real estate company, and in this case, it was actually three: Hilton and Highland, Coldwell Banker Realty, and Berkshire Hathaway. And here's a shameless interruption to let you know that if you've made it this far, you might want to consider clicking like or subscribing to get more Los Angeles real estate related videos. And sorry about that, but now let's talk about the process and timeframes. And we're going to break this section down into three parts: preparation, grand opening, and escrow. Number one, preparation. This is probably the most overlooked and most important part of the process, the one that really has a direct impact on the sales price and overall success of the transaction. This is like the production part of a movie. A movie just takes like 2 hours and $100 of popcorn to watch, but what you don't see is that it can take years in the making before it hits theaters, or in the case of a property, before it hits the market. Now, I'm not saying like spend 2 years before putting a property on the market, but I just do want to highlight how reckless it would be to put a property on the market overnight and expect amazing results. Not gonna happen. Preparation is incredibly important. With my clients, I usually recommend let's start getting ready minimum 1 month before the listing date, ideally 2 to 3 months. During this process, I'm doing a ton of research on the property with two main goals in mind. One, to identify value for marketing purposes, and two, identify issues and correct them before hitting the market. For example, on this listing in Playa Vista, to many, this was just another box in a 120 unit complex. Now, after doing a ton of research, looking at plans, and closely studying the building, it turns out this is a very unique box. It's the only bottom unit in the entire building that's unobstructed on both sides. It is one of only 9 with an oversized patio, one of only 25% of units that face the park, among a bunch of other things that make this property incredibly unique. Now, this information alone already adds thousands of dollars to the sales price, so yes, research is important. As for issues, we were not sure of the actual square footage of the unit, so we hired someone to measure it, and it turns out it's bigger than what the public record stated. The seller was able to sell the unit for more square footage than they bought it for. Cha-ching! In the production stage, we're also staging the property. This is like the difference between showing up to your Tinder date looking like this or looking like this. In this case, the seller chose not to spend like over $8,000 on a staging company, so I worked with the seller, working with the furniture they had, adding a little more, and we were able to completely transform the space and in the process add thousands of dollars to the sales price and avoid spending a bunch of money on staging. Production also includes putting together the photography, video, custom website, and a bunch of other marketing material needed to present the property in the best possible light. So again, I typically recommend minimum a month, ideally 2 to 3 months for production if you want to maximize price. Number 2, grand opening. This is the day you hit the market, and the idea is that you put in all the hard work during production, so this day is really kind of just like a piece of cake. If you did everything correctly, depending on the price point in Los Angeles, you should have offers within a week or 2, or even within the first couple of days. Now, once you get an offer accepted, your agent will help you, 1, filter out the offers for the one most likely to make it to the finish line, and 2, negotiate the best possible terms to maximize price and, equally important, reduce liability. Number 3, the most famous word in real estate, escrow. This is the process where you've accepted an offer and the buyer executes the terms of the contract. There are 3 main terms that the buyer will typically need time to execute. 1, inspection. This is typically about 10 days. Now, if work was done correctly during the production process, you've already identified potential issues and solved them before the buyer finds them. It is cheaper to address issues before they come up than after. Now, during this part, the buyer has the right to request repairs or cancel the transaction if things don't work out. Number 2, appraisal. The buyer typically has about 14 days to perform an appraisal on the property. If the property doesn't appraise for the purchase price, they also typically have the right to cancel the transaction. Number 3, financing. The buyer typically has about 15 days to secure financing. If they can't get final loan approval, they typically also have the right to cancel the transaction. So as you can see, even with an accepted offer, the buyer can still have many rights to cancel. For this reason, it is incredibly important to properly filter out the offers and negotiate tight terms. But in summary, the escrow process can typically take about 30 days. Now, once you account for about a month of production and 2 weeks on the market, the total process can take about 2 to 3 months. Now, can it be done faster? Yes. Technically, I can have a property sold in a week, it's just not going to be for the best possible price. And finally, let's talk about everyone's favorite part, the cost of selling a house. Now, there's several fees and they vary depending on where and what you sell, but here are some of the main fees, assuming you're selling a single family house in the city of Los Angeles. Now, for this scenario, let's also just assume that you're selling a $1 million house. Fee number 1, real estate commissions. This is pretty much your biggest expense. Typically, this is about 2.5% for the seller's agent and 2.5% for the buyer's agent, so a total of about 5%. And I know what you're thinking, it's like, why must I pay for the buyer's agent commission? So if it makes you feel better, 1, because when you bought the house, they paid for yours. Be nice. return the favor. And 2, in paying for the buyer's agent commission, you're making it easier for the buyer to buy, and the easier it is for someone to buy your property, the more buyers you get, and the more buyers you get, well, the more money you get. Get it? Get it? It's kind of like the same reason car dealerships offer 0% financing. Trust me, they're not losing money. But anyway, on $1 million house, you're looking at about $50,000 in real estate commissions, to which you're probably still like, why? So if it makes you feel better, 1, the real estate commission is kind of already built into the value of the house, and 2, remember that $150 million house we spoke about earlier? They paid $3 million in real estate commissions to the buyer's agent only, not including what was paid to the listing agents. Now, with houses that are this expensive, typically like over 20 million, the standard commission is about 4% split 50-50. But still, in some $100 million houses, the commission offered to the buyer's agent may still be 2.5%, as some sellers find that the incentive of a larger commission comes back in the form of a quicker sale or a higher price. So as you're negotiating the buyer's agent commission, consider that real estate agents representing buyers are like influencers. And as corporations have learned, it's worth properly incentivizing influencers to get your product sold. It's no coincidence big brands are willing to give 15-year-old Tommy 50 grand to post one video on Instagram. In fact, when I work with sellers, I almost prefer to negotiate my commission rather than the buyer's commission. I mean, think about it. A buyer's agent showing 2 properties, both are very similar. One is offering 2%, the other one's offering 2.5%. Which one do you think the agent's gonna be more excited to sell? Now, a good ethical agent who puts their client first doesn't even care. But hashtag people are greedy. But anyway, enough on commissions, and because I wasted most of our time talking about commissions, I'll quickly cover the rest of the fees. 2, escrow fees. This is typically about $2 per $1,000 of the purchase price plus about $300. So on $1 million house, you're looking at about $2,300. Number 3, owner's title insurance policy. Here the buyer's pretty much like, I don't trust you, Mr. Seller. How do I know you're selling me a clean title? To which you're like, okay, I get it. I don't trust people either. So for your peace of mind, milady, buyer, I'll pay for a title insurance policy. The cost of this on $1 million house is about $2,500. Number 4, transfer taxes. In the city of Los Angeles, you have city transfer taxes, which are about $4.50 per thousand, and county transfer taxes, which are about $1.10 per thousand. So in our scenario, that totals to about $5,600. And number 5, repairs. Now this one can vary depending on the conditions of the house. You kind of have to do your own assessment here, but for this scenario, let's just say the water heater's busted and needs some termite work. So let's budget about $5,000, to which the buyer may or may not request, but it's good to keep it in mind. So in summary, on cost, you're looking at about $65,000 to sell $1 million house, approximately. Now there's other fees, but this covers a good bulk of them. And to finish this up, yes, you technically don't need a real estate agent to sell a house. But as we've seen from the $100 million house, gazillionaires, whom we can assume have made good life choices, still prefer to use a real estate agent, specifically a traditional agency. The process of selling a house includes 1, preparation, 2, grand opening, and 3, escrow, all of which can take about 3 to 4 months to complete, or about 1 week if you really just don't care about getting the highest amount of money. And finally, of course, the biggest takeaway here is take care of the buyer's agent. But anyway, my name is Daniel Rangel, real estate agent in Los Angeles. If I can be of any help, it would be an honor. And if you like this video, make sure to hit like or subscribe to get more Los Angeles real estate related videos. But either way, thanks a bunch for watching and have an awesome day.